Good morning and welcome to Daily Connect. My name is Raymond, and I'm so glad you could be a part of this time together. We're looking at God's Word, we're seeing where the Lord is leading us and who the Lord is calling us to be. Today is Friday. That means it's time for this weekend of worship. It's time for us to really begin the process, if you haven't already, to consecrate ourselves, consecrate our hearts, prepare our offerings, prepare our clothes, prepare everything for this worship encounter with the Lord that's coming up on Sunday. And that preparation really can begin in a powerful way starting right here, right now. So glad all of you are a part of this time. Starting with the Word, starting your day off with the Word, and going into this day with that. Man, I'm gonna use this as my day of, or my weekend of preparation, so that when we come into the presence of a holy God, it's gonna be impactful. It's gonna be full. We don't want to do that preparation as service is starting, right? We want to have had the time to prepare our hearts, and especially after a long week of work and all these different things, we want to come into the presence of God with, like, yes, Lord, I'm ready. I've shed all these different worries, concerns off of my shoulders. I've gotten my heart prepared for this encounter. Let's start doing that beginning today. We're looking at the book of Judges, and we've been learning a lot about, you could say, the failure of this nation, the nation of Israel. They've inherited this land. They've gotten into the land already. They're starting to settle down. Their leader has passed away, Joshua, and yet the people, even though they have this direct relationship with the Lord now, it's no longer through Joshua. Now it's directly to God, and yet they still came up short. They didn't completely fulfill upon the mandates from the Lord. And today, what we're going to be reading may seem very confusing, but there's a purpose behind this. And again, we have to take a step back and look at this through the lens of that Old Testament reader. What was he focused on? Who is his audience? And where does this lead us to? So without further ado, let's go ahead and dive right into it. I want to say a quick good morning to each and every one of you. Those that are sharing greetings in the live chat, thank you. Good morning to you, Missy, to Jeanette, Sonia, Esther, Alistair, and Bernadette, Joanna, Rich, and everyone else who's watching this live. I want to encourage you, pop into the live chat, say hey, good morning. So glad all of you are sharing this time together. Whatever it may be, let's encourage one another through this greeting, and let's use this time. Even just the few words that you type in there, it is a means of building each other up. Just encouraging one another that we're not in this alone. We are in this together. All right, let's get into this. Pull up a comfortable chair, grab something warm to drink, and let's open up your physical Bibles. I hope you have your physical Bible right there in front of you, and turn it over to Judges chapter 2. We're going to start from verse 6, and let's see what the Lord... Where am I? All right, there we go. I'm hitting all the wrong buttons here. Let's get into this. We're looking at the book of Judges, and I titled this, The Loss from the Lack of Witnessing. The loss from the lack of witnessing. Identifying the root of the failure. Judges chapter 2, verses 6 through 13. 6 through 13. It's not a whole lot of verses, but at the same time, I want to slow it down because we want to make sense of everything that we're reading here. Let's start with verse 6. When Joshua dismissed the people of Israel went each to his inheritance to take possession of the land. Now, if you've been following along, this now seems very weird. Wait a minute. I thought the book of Judges takes place after the passing of Joshua, and And that's all the more reason why the nation went directly to God, because Joshua had died. Um, and what's going on here? Well, the narrative here has to be understood from the perspective of the recorder, of the writer of the book of Judges. Um, and here, the narrative practically repeats what is mentioned in at the end of Joshua chapter 24, verse 28. And again, what's with the chronology here? This is problematic if we are rigid and say it's got to be chronological, because it doesn't match, or it doesn't align with everything that we had just read. Instead, what we need to do is imagine the writer having the book of Judges right there next to him as he's writing this, and he's got a purpose. His focus is not necessarily on a historical writing of this nation, of everything that happened to Israel. He must be looking at the book of Judges, shaking his head, and kind of approaching this from a retrospective angle. And again, what we're going to read here kind of sounds very much like what was mentioned by the angel of the Lord in the previous section, in the earlier part of this chapter. The angel of the Lord came and said, I've done all these different things for you. Here's what I've called you to do, and you failed. And now it's the writer's turn, and he starts from where Joshua passes away. Joshua dismissed the people, and the people went to their inheritance. And so this becomes a kind of supplemental to identifying what we're about to read here, up to verse 10, identifying the root of this apostasy that this nation is demonstrating right now. Verse 7, and the people served the Lord all the days of Joshua, and all the days of the elders who outlived Joshua, who had seen all the great work that the Lord had done for Israel. Okay, so I hope you can follow what I'm about to do. What we want to do is take the latter half of verse 6, which is the taking possession of the land, and combine it with verse 7 and then also with verse 10. And what does that give us? That gives us kind of the picture of what the people were going through. In the days of Joshua, while he was still alive, we saw the people serving the Lord. But then, in the days of the elders, we also see that at least the people remembered the Lord's work. They may not have seen it, but they went from actually having experienced it to then just remembering it. At least the elders were witnesses, or witnesses to the great things that God is doing. Maybe not all the way back to the Exodus period, but at least they were probably coming through the wilderness. They've witnessed the taking of the land. Perhaps they're even very, very fresh in their minds, sharing about the conquering of Jericho. Watch what happens next. Verse 8. And Joshua the son of Nun, the servant of the Lord, died at the age of 110. And they buried him within the boundaries of the inheritance in Timnah and in the hill country of Ephraim, north of the mountain of Gaash. So if we take this along with what was mentioned at the very first part of verse 6, what do we see? We see a summary of the circumstances around Joshua's death. And again, this practically mirrors what was mentioned in Joshua chapter 24, verses 28 through 30. And here Joshua commissioned the people, and then he died and was buried in his personal allotment. So we see this parallel that speaks to everything about Joshua. He lived, he died, he was buried. And then we come to verse 10. And all that generation also were gathered to their fathers. And there arose another generation after them who did not know the Lord or the work that he had done for Israel. Now we come to that third part, basically recognizing a trend amongst the nation here. So now, in the days after all of the surviving witnesses, the generation that followed did not know the Lord, and they did not serve the Lord. So we went from having Joshua and serving the Lord, the nation serving the Lord, having the elders after Joshua, and the nation remembered the Lord, to now, when all of the surviving witnesses are gone, they came to a point where, literally, there's no more witnesses that speak to who God is, and as a result, the nation, the generation of this particular generation, they did not know the Lord, and they did not serve the Lord. And this establishes the root of the apostasy of Israel. This is how it kind of devolved here. They went from having a witness, the witness, to having people speaking of God, to then having a generation where there are no witnesses, and it's kind of a scary thing, right? If we stop witnessing, if we stop evangelizing, if we stop sharing the gospel, what's going to happen to this generation, right? And I think it's such a great what the author did here. I think was brilliant in that, yes, it's one thing to kind of progressively go through the history and the downward spiral of the nation, but it's quite another to say, hey, let me just share how it all began. Beginning with Joshua, he dismissed the people to their inheritance, but then he died, but then you had the elders, but then they died, and then you have no one to continue sharing about the testimony of who God is. And upon that, the entire generation just failed in doing the mandates of God. They failed in just having that relationship with God, and they were the ones. Israel was the one to break that covenant. But how far did it go? Verse 11. And the people of Israel did what was evil in the sight of the Lord and served the Baals. Wow. Okay, now we are going. It's not bad enough already to have to not know the Lord, to not serve the Lord. I mean, if you go back to actually, if you jump ahead to the book of Hosea, which is what I covered before, what did Hosea 6:6 say? What does the Lord desire? He desires the knowledge of God. He desires that steadfast love, right? And here you have a generation that not only did not know God, but they went in the opposite direction. They actually started doing evil in the sight of the Lord, and they served the Baals, these false gods. And so the evil that is done in the sight of the Lord here, the author is borrowing literally vocabulary found going back to Deuteronomy chapter 4, verse 25. And even then, this type of language is also echoed in a bunch of other texts in the Old Testament, doing evil in the sight of the Lord. And the author here reveals, somehow he recognizes that everything that the people were doing were evil. And I think it takes a very special discernment to be able to recognize what what truly what truly blesses the Lord and what is truly evil in the sight of the Lord. I think uh, we we need to pray for that discernment. We need to be mindful of that because the alternative would be for us to actually be doing evil in the sight of the Lord and justifying our actions. Oh yeah, I don't feel like it, or I'm doing these things because that's just how God created me. No, that's not the point. It's not. That's yeah. I don't need to explain that, but often if we lack that discernment, unlike the reader here, uh, if we lack that discernment, we could end up just justifying in our own minds the evil that is before the Lord. Verse 12. And they abandoned the Lord and the God of their fathers, who had brought them out of the land of Egypt, and they went after other gods from among the gods of the peoples who were around them, and bowed down to them. They provoked the Lord to anger. They abandoned the Lord and served the Baals and the Ashtaroth. Wow. As if it wasn't bad enough, they went not only in the wrong direction, but they went headlong in that direction. Now they've got other idols, other quote unquote gods in their lives, and they took the worship that should have gone to the Lord and gave it to, for all intents and purposes, inanimate objects. They literally abandoned the Lord. And they ended up, instead of serving the Lord, they ended up serving the Baals and the Ashtaroth. So the evils are listed here, and it's listed in a chiastic form. And if you recall, a chiasm is where you start off with one point and you end with that same point, and then the second point would be an echo that is found from the second to last point, and so on. And so what we have here is this. So it started off talking about, in the latter half of verse 11, how they served the Baals. And then they were found having abandoned God, abandoning Yahweh. Verse 12, first half of 12. They pursued other gods. That's found in verse 12, the latter half of verse 12. And then they not only pursued after these gods, they worshiped them. And again, these are paired thoughts here, and that's the third part of verse 12. And then the mentioning of abandoning Yahweh, echoing what has already been mentioned here. And then going from just serving Baal to expanding on that and saying, their worship is really bad. They serve the Baals and the Ashtaroth. Now, what is the Ashtaroth here? The Ashtaroth, Baal and Ashtaroth, if you combine them together, are basically represent all of the spiritual influences of the ancient Near East. These are all the things that you could say is encompassed in what is understood as pagan spirituality, and so when you think about it, the nation has really gone after the things of the world. And so when you look at these verses here, it's no wonder that the Lord is outraged. And we come to recognize, everything that has been talked about here is really not meant for this to be a chronology of any sort, but it's really to prove a point. Verses 6 through 13 shows not only the origin of this apostasy, but how far it went. It didn't just end with them not knowing God. It continued all the way to the point of them just completely abandoning God, going in the other direction, taking what they had originally been devoting to the Lord, now giving it over to these false gods. Wow. What are we learning out of all this? What's your big takeaway? I want to encourage you to share it. Share it in the live chat. Share it in the comments below. But I want to hear from you. I want to hear from you what you are learning from these verses. Is there an application? Is there something that really stuck to you? Or maybe you have a question. I want to encourage you to also share those questions, and let's examine them together. But what is that big takeaway for you? That's one of the big things I want to challenge us with. For me, my big takeaway is this: the loss of the witness of the greatness of God leads to the deepening of the depravity of man. When that witness, when that testimony of God ceases, when we stop sharing the gospel, and there's a lot of reasons why we may find ourselves saying to ourselves, I'm not a good public speaker. I don't know enough about the gospel. I think I shouldn't intrude upon another person. Whatever it may be, whatever the reason may be for you to not share the gospel, it is creating this condition of deepening that depravity of man. When the gospel is not shared, when the witness no longer is present that speak to who God is, man, that sinfulness of man is just going to take over. It's going to be overwhelming. It's going to lead people down the wrong path. And we're not just talking about unbelievers. We're not talking about people who are outside of that relationship with God. What do we see here with this narrative? It is with the people of God. When the people of God lack that testimony, when they lack that witness, bad things will happen. Their relationship, their covenant with the Lord will end up being fractured. So we need to be, in a sense, we need to be preaching this, sharing this testimony with one another on a regular basis. If God has been working mightily in your life, we've got to be sharing it. If we have the gospel in our hearts, we've got to let it loose and share it with people around us. Otherwise, those who are even within the fold could end up worshiping false gods. Amen. Thank you, everyone, for I gotta say, you guys are the best. You have this discipline to wake up early, give this best part of the day over to the Lord, and to look upon the Word together. And I think because of that, not only is the Lord going to bless you, and the Lord sees your devotion, and He is going to be most pleased. I mean, this in itself is like an act of worship, to just bring our very best before the Lord. You guys are head and shoulders above so many other people because you came together, because you are sharing this time together. I was just thinking how we have this resource, we have this opportunity to go over the Word together, but yet so many people choose for one reason or another not to be a part of this, and we miss out on it. We miss out on the goodness that is found in the Word, and in looking at the Word together. So let's encourage others to join in this time. Let's make this an opportunity for us to really draw closer together to the Lord and together as a community, because that's really what I've been praying for 2024. This is the year of unity. I want to go into some of the takeaways here. Jeanette shares takeaway: Father, help me to always remember and serve you. I need you to help my children and the next generation to help and serve you. Alistair shares his takeaway: this is why we continue to study the Old Testament, because it is important that we learn from history. Unfortunately, a lot of times we see history repeating itself. Lord, help us. Very, very true. Bernadette's takeaway: pray for our discernment. Strengthen our faith in the Lord, that we will not be misdirected and lead us to human depravity. We don't want to be going down that path. And let us be found boasting in the Lord. Yes, amen. these are fantastic takeaways, and let's continue to share this with others. And I want to encourage you to meditate upon these words throughout this day. What else is the Lord sharing with you? And share that with others. Share it with others, and encourage them to really dig into the Word together. Yeah, and also don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Let's do our part in influencing the YouTube algorithm. I know that the majority of us watching this are subscribers. There's like 15% of you out there that are not subscribers, and I want to encourage you to subscribe and be a part of this movement in just making the Word a daily part of our lives. And let's continue to make sure that this Word gets into the YouTube feeds of those around us. All right, with that, have a great day, guys. I love you, and yeah, let's go into this weekend of worship with this preparation that starts today, this consecration. Look forward to seeing you all soon. Take care.